In a world where the sun rose over endless forests and mountains, the land was ruled not by humans but by beasts. Giant wolves with burning red eyes hunted the night, fire lions walked the plains like living storms, and sky serpents circled the clouds, striking lightning on anything below. Humans were few and weak, living in small villages hidden under the shadow of these monsters. They were slaves, servants, or prey, never rulers. To survive, humans kept quiet, obeyed the laws of the beasts, and prayed that they would be ignored for one more day. But in the whispers of the old and the songs of travelers, there was a legend. A story older than the beasts themselves. It told of the white dragon, a being of endless power, who once walked beside humans. The legend said only a human could awaken it from its eternal sleep. If the white dragon returned, it could burn the beasts and lift humanity out of the dust. But no one had seen it, no one had proof, and so most called it a lie, a fairy tale for children to dream about while hiding from the claws of the night. In a small village on the edge of the forest, a boy named Eric lived with those same dreams. He was young, but his eyes carried fire. Unlike the others, he did not bow his head when the wolves passed by. He hated the silence of his people, the way they pretended not to hear the growls that ruled their lives. He wanted to fight, but what could a single human boy do against a world of beasts? His answer came one stormy night. The rain was heavy, and the sky was full of thunder. Eric was deep in the forest, chasing after a deer for his village. The deer ran far, past the safe paths and into the broken ruins of an ancient place. Eric followed, his feet slipping on the wet ground, until he stood before a cave hidden behind stone and roots. Inside, the air was colder, and the sound of the storm grew quiet. The deer had vanished, but something else waited in the darkness. On the ground lay a single white scale, shining with a soft glow, as if the moon itself had fallen into that place. Eric felt his breath stop. His heart raced. He reached out, and when his fingers touched the scale, it burned and froze at the same time. A blinding light filled the cave. Outside, the beasts of the forest howled, their voices mixing in anger and fear. Across the land, creatures lifted their heads, their eyes glowing with fury, as if they had all felt the same spark. In that moment, Eric fell to the ground, clutching his arm. A mark had appeared on his skin, spreading like fire under his flesh. It was white, glowing, and alive. He screamed, but the sound was drowned by the roar of thunder above. Far away, in the great plains, the fire lion opened its eyes. In the mountains, the stone titan rose from its sleep. In the dark skies, serpents twisted in restless circles. All of them had felt the call. The white dragon had stirred. In the village, people saw the glow from the forest. Fear spread faster than the storm. They whispered of curses, of punishment, of doom. When Eric stumbled back to the gates, rain dripping from his hair, the mark shining bright on his arm, the villagers stepped away from him. Mothers pulled their children close, elders shouted warnings, and one by one they began to see him not as a boy but as danger itself. But in Eric's eyes, there was something else. He felt pain, fear and confusion, but also a pull, a voice deep inside calling him forward. He could not understand it yet, but the mark was not just a curse. It was a key. Somewhere in the world, under stone, under time, the white dragon slept. And now, because of Eric, it was no longer silent. The beasts roared in fury, the humans trembled in fear, and the world itself began to change. For in a world of beasts, only humans could awaken the white dragon. And one boy, with fire in his eyes and a glowing mark on his arm, had just begun the story that would decide the fate of all. Eric lay in his small hut, the storm still echoing in the distance, but his body burned hotter than fire. The white mark on his arm glowed through the night, bright enough to light the room like a lamp. His mother cried beside him, begging him to hide it, to cover it, to never let anyone see, but it was impossible. The mark pulsed like a heartbeat, alive and full of power. Eric could feel it whispering to him, calling him toward something far beyond the village. In the morning, the village elders gathered. Their faces were hard, their eyes full of fear. They spoke in whispers, but Eric heard the words: cursed, danger, banishment. One elder said the mark was a signal to the beasts, that the boy had brought doom upon them all. Already, strange things were happening. Wolves that usually kept to the deep forest now stalked the edge of the fields. Birds that never came near flew overhead, circling the village. Even the cattle were restless, crying in fear as if they smelled death in the air. The people were terrified, and their fear turned to anger. When Eric walked through the streets, carrying water or trying to help, mothers pulled their children away. Some spat on the ground as he passed. Some shouted that he should leave before the beasts came. But the mark was not just a curse. It gave Eric strength. When he lifted buckets, they felt lighter. When he ran, his legs carried him faster than before. When he closed his eyes at night, he saw flashes of a great white shape moving through clouds of fire. The white dragon. It was like the dragon was waiting for him, showing him visions, guiding him toward a destiny he did not understand. But danger was close. One evening, while Eric stood by the village gate, a shadow moved among the trees. The guards raised their spears, but their hands shook. Out of the forest stepped a black wolf, larger than any hut, its fur dark as night, its eyes glowing like hot coals. It growled, and the ground trembled. Behind it, more beasts appeared, dozens of wolves, crawling, snarling, their teeth sharp and dripping. The villagers screamed and ran, but the wolves did not chase them. They stared only at Eric. The mark on his arm blazed brighter, answering the wolves' fury. The black wolf roared, shaking the village walls. Eric knew, in that moment, they were not hunting the people. They were hunting him. He ran, pulling the beast away from the huts, his feet pounding the dirt path, his heart beating in his ears. The wolves gave chase, their claws ripping the ground, their howls rising into the stormy sky. Eric's legs moved faster than ever, the mark filling him with power, guiding his path through trees and rocks. But still, the wolves closed in. Just as one leapt to strike, an old voice rang out, strong and sharp. "This way, boy." Eric turned and saw a man cloaked in rags, holding a staff carved with strange symbols. The stranger waved his hand, and fire burst from the ground, forcing the wolves back for a moment. Eric stumbled into the man's hut hidden in the rocks. The wolves howled outside, scratching, snarling, waiting. The old man studied the mark on Eric's arm, his eyes wide. "So it is true," he whispered. "The dragon seal has chosen again." Eric's chest heaved. What does it mean? Why are they chasing me? What is happening? The old man's face was grim. The mark is the key to the white dragon. Long ago, the dragon trusted humans to guard the world. But the beasts betrayed it, trapping it in eternal sleep. They fear the dragon's return, because if it wakes, their rule will end. That is why they hunt you. That is why they will never stop. Eric felt cold, even as the mark burned hot. The old man leaned close. "Listen to me, boy. You are chosen, but chosen does not mean safe. The beasts will come, stronger and stronger, until they tear this land apart. If you want to survive, you must follow the call of the mark. It will lead you to the dragon's resting place. Only there can you find the truth." Outside, the wolves grew louder, their howls shaking the walls. The old man gripped his staff. "Go now. Run to the east. The path is long, but the mark will guide you. I will hold them as long as I can." Eric's heart pounded. He wanted to argue to stay, but the man's eyes were full of fire, unafraid of death. Eric nodded, then slipped out the back into the storm. Rain washed over him, the forest stretched ahead, and the mark blazed like a torch in the night. Behind him, he heard the old man shout and the roar of wolves. Flames lit the sky for a moment, then silence. Eric did not look back. He ran, the call of the dragon stronger than ever, knowing his life as a simple village boy was gone forever. He was marked, hunted, and chosen. The world of beasts would never leave him in peace again. The forest stretched endlessly as Eric ran, his breath heavy, his legs burning, but the mark on his arm glowed brighter with every step, guiding him east as the old man had said. The night was filled with the cries of beasts, their howls and roars rolling across the land, warning all that the hunt had begun. Eric knew the wolves would not be the last. The old man's sacrifice had bought him a little time, but the beasts would send more and stronger ones. As dawn broke, the sky filled with strange shadows, and Eric looked up to see massive birds, their wings wide as ships, circling above. Their golden eyes fixed on him, and their screeches split the air like knives. He darted into the thicker woods, branches tearing at his skin, but the birds dove, their talons ripping bark and earth. Eric barely escaped each strike, his heart pounding, his mark blazing hotter with every close call. By the time he reached the hills, his body was covered in cuts, his clothes torn, but he was still alive, still running. At the top of the hill, he stopped, gasping, and what he saw froze him in place. Across the plain below, the fire lion stood. Its mane burned with flames that reached the sky, its eyes like suns, its roar shaking the very ground. Around it gathered an army of beasts, wolves, serpents, birds, and creatures Eric had never seen before, some with scales, some with horns, some with wings blacker than night. They moved like soldiers, their eyes all glowing the same way, their focus on one thing, him. The fire lion's voice thundered across the land. The boy carries the dragon seal. No human must reach the white dragon. Bring me his head. The beasts roared in answer, their cries echoing into the horizon, and the earth seemed to shake as they began to march. Eric's blood ran cold. He was one boy, and an army had been sent to crush him. He turned and fled, but the sound of thousands of claws and wings followed. The mark burned on his arm, whispering, pulling him forward through valleys and rivers. He crossed a stream, his legs giving way, but when he stumbled, he felt hands catch him. Startled, he looked up and saw a girl about his age, her hair tied back, her eyes sharp and steady. "Come on, get up," she said firmly. "If you stop, you die." Eric pulled away, confused, but the girl grabbed his arm, and when she saw the mark, her eyes widened. "So it's true," she whispered. "The seal has returned." She introduced herself as Lyra, a wanderer, but her words carried weight, as if she knew far more than she revealed. She led him through hidden paths, narrow caves, and old ruins that beasts avoided, as if she had walked this road 1,000 times before. Eric demanded answers, but Lyra only said, "I have been waiting for this day. The white dragon cannot sleep forever." Suspicion burned inside Eric. Was she a friend, or a trick sent by the beasts? But he had no choice. The roars behind them grew louder, and the ground shook as the army spread through the land. One night, as they hid in a hollow tree, Eric asked her why she was helping him. Lyra stared into the firelight and said, "Because you are the only hope humans have left. The beasts rule now, but the dragon chose us once. It can choose us again. Without you, we are finished." Eric wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at him. What if she wanted the dragon's power for herself? What if this path was a trap? Yet every time he looked at the mark glowing on his arm, he knew he could not turn back. The world itself seemed to push him forward. The next morning, the sky turned black, and a roar unlike any before split the air. The fire lion had moved, its flames setting the horizon ablaze. Entire forests burned as it advanced, its army destroying everything in its path to find Eric. Villages were crushed, rivers boiled, mountains cracked. The wrath of the beasts was total, and all of it was aimed at him. Eric and Lyra ran, the mark guiding them toward the east, but the roars grew closer, the air hotter, the shadows longer. Eric's heart thundered with fear and resolve. The beasts would not stop until he was dead, and if he fell, humanity would remain broken forever. The fire lion's voice echoed again across the burning land, full of fury and fire. "The white dragon will never rise. The boy must die." And Eric, running through smoke and ash, whispered back to himself, "Then they will have to kill me first." The night was cold as Eric and Lyra pushed through the ruins of an old stone city, its walls broken, its towers fallen, its streets silent except for the whisper of the wind. The beasts had once ruled here, but long ago something greater had lived within these walls, something older than the fire lion and the sky serpents. As Eric touched the cracked stones, the mark on his arm glowed faintly, as if it remembered what his eyes could not. Lyra watched him carefully, her own face hard with secrets, and finally, when they sat near the broken gates, she began to speak of things no villager had ever told him. Long before the beasts ruled, she said, the white dragon walked the earth, and with it, humans stood tall, free, and strong. The dragon was not just a creature but a guardian, a being that chose humans to share its strength. Together, they kept balance in the world, and the beasts respected their rule. But pride and fear grew among the beasts. The fire lion and the stone titan, jealous of the dragon's bond with humans, turned against it. They gathered all beasts, betrayed the dragon, and used forbidden power to bind it in eternal sleep deep beneath the earth. With the dragon sealed, humans lost their strength, became prey, and fell into the shadow of the beasts. Eric listened, his fists clenched, his heart pounding. So the legend was true, he whispered. Lyra nodded. And now the seal has chosen you. That mark on your arm is the dragon's call. You are the first in centuries to bear it. That is why the beasts fear you. If you reach the dragon and awaken it, their rule will end. Eric looked at his arm, the white glow pulsing like a heartbeat. But why me? I am no warrior. I am no leader. Lyra's eyes softened for the first time. The seal does not choose strength of body. It chooses strength of heart. Somewhere deep inside you, the dragon saw what the rest of us could not. Eric wanted to believe her, but doubt twisted his thoughts. If the dragon was as powerful as she claimed, why had it not broken free on its own? Why would it need him, a boy, to wake it? And if it did wake, would it truly save humans, or would it destroy everything in its path? He voiced his fear, and Lyra fell silent for a long time. Then she whispered, "That is the question, Eric. Some in my clan believe the dragon is humanity's savior. Others believe it will burn the world in its rage. But the beasts fear it more than anything. And sometimes, what your enemy fears most is the only chance you have." Her words dug deep into his mind, filling him with both hope and dread. That night, as he closed his eyes, visions came again. He saw the white dragon chained in darkness, fire wrapped around its body, and eyes like suns staring at him. Its voice echoed in his head, soft and terrible. "Find me." He woke in sweat, his arm blazing, and Lyra staring at him with knowing eyes. Before he could speak, the ground shook. From the shadows of the ruins, massive shapes rose, stone beasts, guardians left behind to protect the secrets of the city. Their bodies were carved from rock, their faces twisted with rage, their steps heavy as mountains. Lyra pulled him to his feet. "Run. These are not ordinary beasts. They are bound to the fire lion's will." Eric and Lyra dashed through the crumbling streets, stones crashing down as the giants pursued. The mark burned hotter, guiding Eric toward an underground passage hidden beneath a broken statue. They leapt inside, sliding into the dark tunnels below as the stone beasts roared above. The tunnels stretched deep, filled with carvings of dragons and humans standing together, fighting side by side. Eric's breath caught as he touched the walls, his mark glowing in response, as if the carvings remembered him. Lyra whispered, "This was once the heart of my clan. The last protectors of the dragon. We have hidden here for centuries, waiting for the seal to return." Eric looked at her sharply. "So you knew this would happen? You were waiting for me." Lyra did not deny it. "Yes. Since I was a child, I was taught that one day the seal would appear, and I would find its bearer. You are not alone, Eric. There are others, scattered and hidden, who believe in the dragon's return. But you are the one who must carry the mark. Only you can walk the path to the dragon." Her words gave him strength, but also fear. The fate of humans rested on his shoulders, yet he did not know if the dragon would save or destroy. As they moved deeper into the tunnels, a roar echoed from far above. The fire lion's voice thundered across the land, shaking the stones around them. "The seal will not reach the dragon. I will burn this world before I allow it." Eric felt the weight of those words in his bones, but he also felt the mark flare in defiance, filling him with a strange, fierce resolve. The path ahead was dark, But he knew now there was no turning back. The truth of the dragon had been revealed, and with it, the truth of himself. The beast's wrath was only the beginning, and the choice he would face would decide the fate of all. The tunnels grew narrower as Eric and Lyra pressed forward, the air heavy with dust and the faint smell of burning stone, as if fire had once lived here and never truly left. The mark on Eric's arm glowed brighter with every step, and soon they came to a great chamber, its walls carved with dragon scales and its ceiling lost in darkness. At the center stood 3 archways, each lit by a different light, one black as shadow, one shining with silver, and one burning with red fire. Lyra's voice was low and steady as she explained what her clan had always feared and awaited. These are the trials, Eric. To reach the dragon's resting place, the chosen must pass through all 3. Courage, wisdom, and sacrifice. Many have tried, but none have returned. Eric felt the weight of her words press on his chest, but the mark pulsed as if urging him forward. He stepped toward the first arch, the one black with shadow, and as he crossed the threshold the world shifted. He was no longer in the chamber but standing in a dark field, the moon hidden, the wind silent, the ground cold under his feet. Then a shape moved before him, a massive creature made of black smoke, its eyes glowing red, its teeth sharper than swords. It was the shadow beast, born from fear itself. It circled him slowly, whispering in 100 voices, each one his own. You are weak. You will fail. You will die. Humans are nothing. The dragon will burn you. The words crawled into his mind, filling him with doubt, but the mark blazed on his arm, reminding him of the fire inside. Eric gritted his teeth and shouted back. I am not weak. I am chosen, and I will not run. The shadow beast roared and lunged, its claws like daggers, but Eric did not flee. He stood firm, the mark glowing so bright it cut through the darkness, and the beast shattered into smoke and vanished. The field dissolved, and he found himself back in the chamber, his chest heaving, his arm still blazing. Lyra's eyes widened in awe. You passed the first. Courage is yours. Eric turned to the second arch, the one lit with silver light, and stepped through. The world shifted again, and he was inside a great maze, its walls tall and endless, twisting and turning into confusion. The air was thick with illusions. Doors opened and closed, paths shifted, and voices called his name. He saw his mother crying, his village burning, Lyra betraying him, the dragon rising in rage. Each image clawed at his mind, trying to break him. His heart raced as he ran through corridors that circled back, traps of sight and sound, twisting his thoughts. He nearly gave in, but then he remembered Lyra's words. Wisdom was not about seeing everything, but about seeing clearly. He stopped running, closed his eyes, and listened. The mark on his arm pulsed softly, and he realized the path was not in the illusions but in the light of the seal. He followed its glow, ignoring the false voices, ignoring the false visions, until the walls dissolved into nothing. The maze crumbled, and he was back in the chamber, stronger than before. Lyra smiled faintly. Wisdom is yours. Eric turned to the last arch, the one burning with fire, and stepped through. At once he was surrounded by a blazing chamber, flames rising from every side, the heat so strong it seared his skin. In the center was a stone altar, and on it lay a blade glowing red. A voice filled the fire, deep and terrible. Sacrifice. To walk the dragon's path, you must give what you cannot bear to lose. Eric's chest tightened. He did not know what the voice meant until the fire shaped itself into figures. His mother, his village, Lyra, each one staring at him with eyes full of pain. The voice thundered again. Will you give them to the fire? Will you sacrifice blood for power? Eric fell to his knees, his heart breaking. He could not give up his mother, his people, or Lyra. But then the mark flared, and a new thought struck him. The sacrifice was not about others. It was about himself. He rose, walked to the altar, and placed his hand on the burning blade. The pain was unbearable, fire tearing through his body, but he did not pull away. If sacrifice is demanded, he shouted through the flames, then I give myself, my life, my blood, my pain. Let me carry the burden, not them. The The fire roared, brighter than the sun, swallowing him whole. For a moment he thought he was gone, burned to ash, but then the flames bent inward, sucked into the mark, and vanished. He stood trembling, his arm blazing with pure white light, stronger than ever before. The voice was silent, but he knew the trial was past. He was back in the chamber, the 3 arches gone, the path ahead open. Lyra stared at him with tears in her eyes, awe and fear mixed together. "You did it," she whispered. "No human has ever passed all 3. The dragon is waiting for you now." Eric felt the weight of her words and the fire in his arm. The path ahead led to the dragon's resting place, but in his heart he knew the hardest trial was yet to come. The ground trembled as Eric and Lyra followed the passage beyond the chamber of trials, their steps echoing in the silence of the deep earth. The air grew colder, yet the mark on Eric's arm burned hotter, guiding them forward like a beacon. At last they entered a cavern so vast it felt like a world of its own, its walls glowing faintly with crystal veins, its ceiling lost in shadows. At the center stood a massive crystal tomb, glowing white and pulsing like a sleeping heart. Inside the crystal, curled like a mountain of scales and wings, was the white dragon itself, its body larger than any beast Eric had ever seen, its eyes closed but full of terrible power. Eric's breath caught in his chest. This was the being of his visions, the guardian of old, the enemy feared by all beasts. Lyra stepped forward slowly, awe in her eyes. "We found it," she whispered. "The white dragon." But before Eric could move closer, the cavern shook again, this time with fury, not silence. A roar thundered through the earth, fire cracked through the rocks, and the fire lion appeared at the cavern's edge, flames bursting from its mane, eyes burning with rage. Behind it poured an army of beasts, wolves, serpents, birds, and titans, all filling the cavern with snarls and screeches, their claws striking stone, their wings shaking the air. The fire lion's voice rolled like thunder. "The boy will not wake the dragon. He dies here." The beasts surged forward, and Eric and Lyra drew back, but the mark on Eric's arm blazed like never before, throwing a shield of light around them. The army struck, but the light pushed them back, though cracks began to form in the shield. Eric's heart raced. He was standing at the very edge of destiny, yet death pressed from every side. Lyra turned to him, her voice fierce. "You must decide, Eric. Use the seal to awaken the dragon, or destroy it. If you break the seal, the dragon will sleep forever, and maybe the beasts will leave us in peace. But if you awaken it, no one knows what will happen. It could save us, or burn the world." Eric froze, torn between terror and hope. The dragon was his only chance to break the chains of the beasts, but what if the legends were wrong? What if the beasts spoke the truth, that the dragon was not savior but destroyer? The fire lion's roar shook the cavern, flames cracking the crystal tomb, and the beasts pressed harder against the shield, their claws cutting into the light. Eric's body trembled, sweat pouring down his face, his mind screaming with doubt. In the chaos, Lyra grabbed his shoulders, her eyes burning with belief. "Trust it, Eric. Trust the dragon. We have nothing left to lose. Humanity cannot survive in chains. Only the dragon can free us." Her words struck deep, yet fear still coiled around his heart. Then he remembered the trials, the shadow beast whispering fear, the maze of illusions twisting truth, the fire demanding sacrifice. Each one had been a test, shaping him, showing him that courage, wisdom, and selflessness were the only path forward. The dragon had not chosen him by chance. It had chosen him because he could decide, because he could stand at this moment and choose not for himself but for all. The shield shattered, the beasts lunged, and the fire lion leapt with fire blazing from its jaws. Eric raised his arm, the mark burning like the sun, and slammed his palm against the crystal tomb. The cavern exploded with light. A roar louder than storms, deeper than mountains, shook the world. The crystal cracked, split, and shattered into 1,000 shards of glowing fire. The white dragon rose, its wings unfolding like endless clouds, its eyes blazing with pure white flame. The beasts froze, their roars turning to screams, their bodies shrinking back in terror. The fire lion snarled, but even its flames trembled in the presence of the dragon. The dragon's voice filled the cavern, ancient and thunderous, shaking stone and soul alike. At last. A human brave enough to call me. Eric fell to his knees, the mark on his arm glowing like fire in answer, but he felt no pain now, only the weight of destiny. The white dragon turned its gaze on the fire lion, and with a single breath of white flame it burned the great beast to ashes, scattering its roar into silence. The army of beasts howled in fear, some fleeing into the tunnels, some falling to the ground as if crushed by the dragon's presence. The cavern was filled with silence after the storm, the only sound the beating of wings as the dragon lowered its head to Eric. Its eyes were endless, full of fire and shadow, mercy and wrath. "You have woken me, human," it said, its voice calm now but heavy with power. "Now tell me, will you rule with me, or will you serve? Will you save this world, or end it?" Eric's heart pounded. The choice was his, and the fate of all lay in his hands. The cavern was silent after the roar of fire and the fall of the fire lion, but the silence was heavy, filled with the weight of destiny, for the white dragon stood awake for the first time in centuries, its wings spread like mountains, its eyes blazing with light that could burn or heal, and before it knelt Eric, the boy who had carried the seal and endured every trial, now trembling under the gaze of a power greater than the world itself. Lyra stood beside him, her face pale with awe and fear, her hands shaking though her eyes shone with belief, but the beasts that had survived cowered in the shadows, their bodies pressed to the stone as if the dragon's presence alone crushed their spirits. The white dragon lowered its massive head, its breath hot as a storm, and spoke, its voice deep and endless, shaking Eric's bones. "You woke me, human. You carry the seal. You have courage, wisdom, and the will to sacrifice. But power is not given freely. Power must be guided. Now you must decide. Will you rule with me, bending this world to your will, or will you serve me, giving yourself to my cause? Will you save this world, or destroy it?" Eric's heart thundered in his chest, his thoughts spiraling as he looked into the dragon's burning eyes. The trials had tested him, but this was no trial, it was choice, the final and greatest. He remembered the shadow beast, whispering his fears. He remembered the maze, twisting lies and truths together. He remembered the fire that had demanded his life. All of them had prepared him for this moment, yet nothing felt enough. He looked at the beasts trembling in the corners, creatures that had hunted him, enslaved his people, destroyed villages, and killed without mercy, yet now they shivered like frightened animals before the dragon. He looked at Lyra, who had believed in him, guided him, even when he doubted himself. And he looked at his own hands, scarred and trembling, the mark glowing like fire in his skin. He whispered to himself, "I am no king. I am no god. I am just a human." The dragon's eyes narrowed, its voice softer but sharper. "Then what are you, Eric? What will you be?" Eric drew a deep breath and stood, his legs shaking but his spirit steady. "I am human. That means I fall, I bleed, I fear. But it also means I choose. I will not rule through fear. I will not serve blindly. I will walk beside you, not above, not below. If you are truly the guardian of humans, then stand with us, not over us." The dragon was silent for a long time, its great eyes locked on him, and the cavern seemed to hold its breath. Then the dragon's wings stretched wide, the wind of their movement tearing through the chamber, and its roar filled the air, not of rage but of triumph. "So be it. You have chosen balance. Not ruler, not servant, but ally. Very well, human. Then I will judge with you, not for you." Its body glowed with white fire, and the mark on Eric's arm blazed brighter than ever, no longer just a seal but a bond. The dragon turned its gaze on the surviving beasts, its voice thunderous. "Your reign of chains is over. The time of fear ends now. Humans will stand again, not as prey but as people." Some beasts fled into the shadows, never to be seen again, while others bowed their heads, defeated by the dragon's power. The cavern shook as the dragon rose higher, its wings cutting through stone and sky, breaking free into the open air above. Eric stumbled forward, the light of the mark calming now, but Lyra caught his arm, her face full of wonder. "You did it," she whispered. "You woke the dragon, and it listened. But Eric's eyes were heavy, his heart uneasy, for though the dragon had spared humanity today, he knew its power was vast, its will deep and ancient, and no one could know what future it would bring. As they stepped out into the dawn, the world was no longer the same. The beasts had lost their king, the fire lion turned to ash, and the white dragon had risen once more, its wings casting shadows across mountains and rivers. Villages would hear of it, humans would whisper of freedom, beasts would tremble at its name, but in Eric's heart, there remained one question burning. When the dragon looked at him with those endless eyes and asked what he would do, it had not been a simple question. It was a promise, a warning, and a test that had only just begun. For the white dragon was awake, but what it would truly bring, salvation or destruction, was yet to be written. And as the dragon's roar spread across the world, shaking heaven and earth, every creature, human and beast alike, knew that the age of silence was over, and a new story had begun.